Hello everyone. Now that I've gotten World of Warships out of my system, I want to go back to discussing Division 2. I'm going to link a video in the description for you. It's a video I was made aware of through the forums. It had a lot of excellent points, and I think that between what I'm about to say and that video, it should say a lot of things that could be done. Okay, before we get into what's on my screen, let's go ahead and discuss the crafting system. That's what will lead up to this. A long time ago, I said that the game needs a complete rework, starting with the crafting system. I think that you should be able to craft all yellows to max roll and to the point of where you can select the talents and stats that you want, at the cost of 2 to 3 times the normal resources. I think that's fair for what I'm suggesting. My reasoning for suggesting this is not only the game itself, but the potential that the game has. One of the unfortunate things with really any game these days is they tend to follow the same formula of other games. Division 2 is no exception. They seem to follow the same MMO stereotype of, let's just go ahead and make it as grindy as possible. That's fine and all, to a certain degree. Some people like to work for things. However, Division 2 took things way too far. And it also goes against what they were trying to do. If you'll notice when you go to the Quartermaster, one of your SHD upgrades is Loadouts. It's clear that the game wanted to encourage you to try different loadouts, but there's not a system in place to make that happen. There's not really a way to theory craft or really try new things, because everything's a goddamn grind. When Gunner came out, I made a recording about that because I knew right away that it's not going to be able to shine as much as the Division 2 wanted to because of the fact that there's not a system in place to make that happen. So yes, craft all yellows. And then, to take that further, my next suggestion would be adding more of the red and green gear. If you want people to grind for something, then fine. Give people the basis to do so, and then make them work to it. I.e. the yellows. You should be able to craft the sets that you need for your particular loadout, and then work towards whatever it is you're trying to do. And in this case, it would be reds or greens. I think you could add a lot more reds and greens. It doesn't necessarily have to be a named weapon. It could be something very simple, and I'll point out that in just a second. Let's go ahead and now talk about the chart that's been on the screen. This was something that I created a long time ago, and my intent was to kind of show where I think changes could have been made and what could be added. This is, of course, reliant on the crafting system I just mentioned. But anyways, so you can see that most of these weapons are either in the game or could be added. Then I took things a step further by rearranging the bonuses for each one. So for shotguns, I felt it should have been health damage. Shotguns in real life are not meant to go through armor. They are meant to do the absolute maximum damage to flesh targets. So this makes complete sense to have health damage on them. For SMGs, I went ahead and put recoil reduction in there and changed out the crit chance. My reasoning for that is because of the Division 2 changes. When Division 1 became Division 2, they put in crit range. Well, SMGs don't have the range of ARs or the other weapons, so it doesn't make sense to have crit chance on them. What does make sense is recoil reduction. SMGs in real life are very easy to work with. It's beyond possible to hold down the trigger and still land almost all bullets on the bullseye at the target range. That's because it does not generate a lot of recoil even on full auto. So yeah, that should be in there. You can see that I moved the crit chance to ARs, as I feel that that would be more appropriate due to them having a higher crit range. For LMGs, I wanted that to be a complete opposite, damage while in cover. Presently, LMGs do damage to enemies out of cover, but I think that LMGs should have been designed like they are in real life. They are meant to be fire support, so they should be doing damage while you're in cover. That makes the bonus a little bit more valuable because now there's more situations where that will work. The drawback, of course, for having that is being stationary. Not mentioned here, one of the things I was saying in the forums that should have been changed with LMGs and SMGs. LMGs should be having a higher rate of fire. The perk for rate of fire should just be taken out. All weapons should be a set rate of fire, but LMGs definitely need a much higher rate of fire to really keep up with the other weapons. As we saw in Division 1, not a lot of people really used LMGs because of it. They were just too far behind stat-wise. So to make balancing easier, just, like I said, scrap the talent for fire rate and up the base value. SMGs, like LMGs, should be under a similar pattern. You should remove weapon handling and accuracy, and you should just make it so SMGs are as accurate as ARs. That's the way they are in real life. The drawback would, of course, be the range at which they can do damage. ARs should be able to outrange SMGs all the time. But moving on, I left rifles alone, except for the fact that I wanted them renamed to DMR, or Designated Marksman Rifle. I left Marksman Rifle bonuses alone as well, but again, name change to Snipers, or Sniper Rifles. Pistols, I left them alone except for the bonus. I wanted to see that as health damage. Due to people using pistols as a main weapon these days with shields, I think that it's appropriate to have a bonus related to combat on them. And then we move into the 3 new categories I was requesting in the forums. This goes to show the level of content you can add to the game if everything's crafting, because if everything's crafting, then you don't have to worry about this very much, well, to a certain degree. But we'll go over that more in just a second. So, my logic with carbines was to put something in the game that was a standalone, or backup weapon. Meaning that this is not going to have any bonuses with specializations or with talents or stats in terms of like fire rate or raw damage, that kind of thing. Like, I intended for this to have very high base values and leave it at that because it was meant to be a backup weapon for people who aren't using shields. So kind of a similar thought to pistols. Pistols was supposed to be the backup before people started using it as main weapon. For their bonus, I wanted faster draw time to reinforce that backup weapon scenario. Then we move into the next category I was asking for, the special category. This is perhaps something that you could use for more reds. It doesn't have to be named, just, call it AR-57 or something. But you can see that for the special category, I want their bonus to be armor damage. These guns would make it easier to get through enemies with high armor value. Now, I know the P90 is currently an SMG, so it may not be possible to move that out from the SMG category. If that's the case, then fine. Just do the AR-57, 5.7, AWM, MSR, and DSR. These weapons would pull from, a certain pool of ammo. So for AR-57, that would be SMG. For 5.7, would run off the pistol. AWM would run off marksman ammo. Although I guess you probably could do... No. Yeah, no, that's right. I forgot I did that change. Yeah, so marksman ammo for all 3 of those. These would be bolt actions. So yeah, you can make those reds pretty easy due to the very unique nature of their bonus. It probably would be very strong, so that could be a good balance for us sticking in that category. Moving on to battle rifle. That's another thing I changed, or asked for a change, I should say. I felt that the M16 should have been pulled out of the rifle category because it's a burst weapon. It doesn't really make sense to have crit damage on it. It makes more sense for damage for consecutive hits. The crit damage should be left to the DMRs. Then to take that further, you could add some more burst weapons, the SG-5550 for example, and the AN-94 2-burst. People like AKs, and an AN-94 is basically an AK in certain regards, so I think people would like that. That's just the changes here. Now let's go into the mods for what I was wanting to see. So, I wanted to see a bipod for LSW, LMGs, DMR, snipers, and special. The sniper rifles anyways, not the AR-57 and the other ones. But that should be giving you weapon handling while in cover, to reinforce what I was saying earlier with LMGs and the other ones. Pistol grips and hand grips, they should be only for AR, SMGs, and carbines. The only selection you should have with LMGs is bipods in my opinion, but I'll leave that up to somebody else. Drum magazine should be certain weapons. There should be the option to just automatically change some of the weapons' ammo count. I don't think it should be based on talents. I think the extended magazine talent should be scrapped as well. It would give a flat ammo increase and a slower reload. I really hate that percent thing. I think it should just be flat so it's easier to balance out weapons. For example, the let's go and take the M27 for example. The M27 can get up to 50 rounds through drum magazine in real life. I think that would make it more interesting for that particular weapon because it would give you essentially a LMG that acts more like an assault rifle than an actual LMG. It would have a faster reload than the M249, but less capacity type of thing. So something like that's an example of what I was talking about with that. I don't think that this is going to be possible anymore due to how many changes have occurred since this chart was created, but I was thinking that the mods could be taken further to do AP and JHP ammos. But yeah, I don't think that's going to be possible anymore. Muzzle brake should be on quite literally almost anything. They do make muzzle brakes for shotguns. Pistols, you really only see that, well actually I should say revolvers. Yeah, you really only see those in revolvers, so but yeah, you can see that I kind of went through scopes as well. This is another area where you can balance out things. Because the ACOG scope does increase range, you could force it so it's only on certain weapons. That's actually what was the problem with snipers very early on in Division 2, and why they were so dominant in PvP. It's because people were not putting scopes on it. They could just hold down right trigger, shoot, and go about their business. If snipers were restricted to scopes only back in that day, that would force people to zoom in and we wouldn't have had that problem to start with. But yeah, anyways, I'm not going to go through each of the scopes. But yeah, shotgun choke, that should have been in the game as well, but specific to shotguns, not all of them. So for example, the 870 and the Mossberg 500, or the Spaz. These are the current shotguns in real life that are in use that have the ability to put a choke on them. So you can see that I'm just requesting a sweeping change in balance and also the way the game operates essentially. So I did mention drum magazine, so I guess I can go ahead and go through this real quickly to kind of show you where some balances are. You can see that I only requested between 6 and 8 rounds on the shotguns for the magazines, but if you put on the drum, then that increases it to 20. I think the AA-12 shouldn't be the only one with a 20 round drum magazine, And you should also have the option to remove drum magazine and move to a normal magazine if you really want to. That way you have something that can reload quicker. Another good example would be the LMGs. I was thinking that they could all have a base 30-round magazine you can move to, except for the M249, M60, Negev, so on and so forth. Negev would have a special 35-round base. Yeah, and you can kind of see where some other specials are. You'll notice that I didn't mention the LE6 in here, and I think that was because of the forums. I explained it there. I was saying that the LE6 could have access to a unique magazine type as well. It could have access to EMAG pull magazines, which would increase its reload speed at the cost of not having a whole bunch of ammunition. EMAG rounds are custom make, so it makes sense to reduce the total amount of rounds you have available for the LE6 due to that. That would be its drawback for the increased reload speed. I'll go and do one more example, and then we'll end there. You'll notice that I was suggesting the SVD stay at a 10-round magazine while most of the other DMRs were 20-round magazine, and that's because I was thinking that had they put this AP and JHP ammo thing in, then you can use the 7N14 round, which is unique to the SVD. It could be the highest AP bonus for a non-special weapon. But yeah, so that kind of is just a short overview of what I think could be changed and how you can use this as a basis for more reds and greens. But yeah, I'll probably go over armor at a later date and time because that's going to be another mess to deal with. But for now, this is all I have. Thanks for listening.